Usually trades work if they make sense for both teams. Kyrie Lakers makes sense for both teams. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Seahawks, Jeremy Fowler, a very trustable reporter who breaks a lot of stories, says Seahawks are considering it. Here's why this makes sense. Number one, the Niners value Garoppolo as a really good starter. They like him a lot. If he didn't have injury issues, they wouldn't have drafted Trey Lance. They like him a lot. He went to Lambeau and won. He outplayed Mahomes for most of a Super Bowl. They like him a lot. The injury stuff worries you. They don't want to give him away. Because of his shoulder surgery, he's going to get a fifth-round pick. There's one exception. Seattle in the Russell Wilson trade has 2 number 1s and 2 number 2s next year. And San Francisco believes they can get a second-round pick for Garoppolo, only from Seattle. Everybody else will say, I'm not giving you a second-round pick for Jimmy. But San Francisco can go to Seattle and say, timeout. You think I'm going to give Jimmy Garoppolo to a division rival with a chance he's going to come back and beat us twice a year? You're going to pay the price for that. And they're right. San Francisco can get much more from Seattle, not because they're desperate. I think they're kind of tanking without advertising they're tanking with Drew Lock and Geno Smith. But San Francisco can argue, and there may be some precedent behind this, that we're not going to give a division rival a franchise quarterback for a fifth-round pick. You have to pay for the right to potentially burn us. So San Francisco can get what they believe Garoppolo is worth, a first or a second-round pick. And I think Seattle, and this is why it works for Seattle. I'm not being an ageist. Pete Carroll's 70. Does he really want to rebuild at this point in his career at 70? If Pete Carroll was 42 years old or Sean McVay, I'm like, and by the way, had a fresh new 7-year contract like Shanahan had when he got to the Niners, a long contract, by all means, let's play the long game. Pete Carroll's got great energy. He didn't want to rebuild. And remember, there is no Andrew Luck or Trevor Lawrence in next year's college draft. C.J. Stroud, like him. Right now, he's not the prospect Justin Fields was, and we don't know if Justin Fields can make it. Bryce Young is small, weighs under 200 pounds. There's a kid at Kentucky, Will Levis, I think could be better than both. I have no idea. Let's watch him play, but he's a really good player. So Garoppolo, if you put him in Seattle, what is Garoppolo? He's not a playmaker, but he can engineer. He can be a distributor. Seattle now has Noah Fant, very good tight end. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and I believe they have the Rookie of the Year on their roster, Kenneth Walker, the Michigan State running back. Those guys with Jimmy Garoppolo, that's what he does. He delivers to tight ends. He delivers to a star receiver. He can hand the ball to Kenneth Walker. Seattle has rebuilt their offensive line. So this makes sense. And over the next 2 years, Jimmy Garoppolo is absolutely going to be better than Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, or Will Levis. Absolutely. So he only has 1 year left on his contract. So his agent is Don Yee. You go to Don Yee if you're in Seattle and you're saying, listen, we'll give him 2 years. We'll give him an extra year on the contract, maybe a 3-year team-friendly deal because he's only got 1 year left. You guys all bang on Garoppolo. Did you not watch the Super Bowl with Mahomes? Garoppolo may have a lower ceiling. Didn't look nervous in Lambeau to me. Didn't look nervous in the Super Bowl to me. He's not a great deep ball thrower. If he hits one deep ball, he's a Super Bowl champ. But that's not what he does. That's what Josh Allen does. That's what Lamar Jackson can do some things. But we know we don't classify him as a thrower like a Joe Burrow. Garoppolo can do some things. We don't classify him as a thrower like a Kyler Murray or a Patrick Mahomes. But this one makes sense to me. Does a 70-year-old coach want to do a rebuild? I don't think he does. And, you know, we talk about this a lot. Joy and I talk about this. I like draft picks too. But the Rams keep giving up all their best draft picks and winning. Jimmy Garoppolo can play right now. What is about his shoulder? People do this for a living. He's not the first quarterback that's had a shoulder surgery. By the time Peyton Manning went to Denver, he was on his 4th neck surgery or something. I mean, this is what doctors do. Baseball players all over the sport have had Tommy John surgery. This is what doctors do. This is what athletes do. They rehab. Garoppolo's pretty good at rehab. He does it a lot. So I think this deal makes a lot of sense. I think San Francisco can demand more, and I think Seattle can give more because of the Russell Wilson trade, and I don't think Seattle wants to go on a 2-year rebuild. By the way, it's one thing to rebuild in the NFL. Do you really want to rebuild in a division with Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray? I don't mind rebuilding in the NFC East, or when Brady lives in the NFC South. I don't really want to rebuild against Sean McVay. I don't want to get trampled for years. I don't want to rebuild against Kyler Murray. I don't want to rebuild against those guys. So, and I think this roster right now for San Francisco, they have to figure the Trey Lance thing out fast. They got to figure this thing out by Thanksgiving. Can the dude play or not? This is year 2 for him. He didn't play year 1 much. It's year 2. By Thanksgiving, they'll know in the room. Doesn't work. But you got to figure that out, right? And Garoppolo in the building's not helping out. I think this one could happen. So I saw this story today that the Denver Broncos are tailoring their offense around Russell Wilson. Whatever Russell does well, they're building the offense around him. What a novel approach. Keep the quarterback happy. There's 2 teams in the NFL this year that I believe, one in the NFC, Minnesota, and one in the AFC, Denver, that I think will make the biggest improvements. Last year, Minnesota was a 8-win team. I think they go 14-3. Colin, that's outrageous. Green Bay's weaker. Detroit, Chicago, still not elite. Vikings have always played Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers well, even when they were great. They're not going to be great this year. Their schedule works out. Outside of an at Buffalo game, they get all the go-either-way games at home, and nobody lost more close one-possession games in the NFL than Minnesota. Minnesota is going to be a 14-3 team. Denver was 7-10. I think they're going to be a 12-5 team, maybe 13-4. And in both cases, there's a singular thread why I like the teams. Because they have a new, innovative offensive coach. Daniel Hackett and the tall Sean McVay in Minnesota. And I believe this to be true. The longer Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson were together, the less trust they had in each other. The longer Mike Zimmer and Kirk Cousins were together, the less trust they had in each other. The longer Belichick and Brady were together, the less capable they were of getting along. Is that offensive coaches are significantly more relatable. They talk the same language. They're more progressive. I've been around offensive coaches and defensive coaches in my life. The defensive guys, even the one I like, Dave Wannstedt, they talk a different language. It's about managing the quarterback. LeBron doesn't want to be managed. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be managed. Kevin Durant doesn't want to be managed. Steph Curry's coachable. He doesn't want to be managed. Russell Wilson doesn't want to be managed. He wants to be coached hard. He wants to be marketed, elevated, surrounded with talent. And I think that both Minnesota, and these are, to me, these are obvious ones. Like everybody, the best over-under bet in the league, the best over is Minnesota. It's the easiest over bet in the league. And now Denver's different because everybody subscribes to the theory that Denver's going to be really good. So that's not as easy. But even the defensive coaches I like, the Tomlins, the Belichicks, the Pete Carrolls, the Zimmer's a really good coach. The longer they're with their quarterback, the more agitated the quarterback gets because it's a certain language they talk and the way they view the world. They want to run on first down. They want to run to set up the pass. They're not as innovative or creative offensively. It's not how they spend their time. Offensive coaches, and I've known enough in my career, they sit around with a notepad during games stealing plays from other coaches. That's what they do. That's how Andy Reid's mind works. He's going back and looking at YouTube clips of the 1958 Rose Bowl to find plays. That's his id. That's his ego. That's his fun. Play design. McVay's the same way. Shanahan's the same way. So I think Minnesota's going to be fantastic. And I think the Vikings are going to be a 13-14 win team. And I think Denver's going to be fantastic. And I can't wait for it. By the way, grudges, I don't think they're healthy all the time. I think in my case, it's going to be so gratifying when I bury this person. And it's going to happen in a couple years. But I am not, by the way, all you kids watching, Uncle Colin is not advocating for anger and grudges. If you're going to have one, have one. But it's it's not the end of the world if you can use it to elevate and motivate you.
Well, Auntie Joy is very petty.
Well, you're petty.
I think it's it's a lifestyle choice. Actually, it's not. I've always been this way, but
yeah,
you just have to manage them. Don't let them become toxic.
Right.
So Nick said, I think a little grudge is healthy. Keeps you a little chip on your shoulder.
So do you have a grudge right now?
I have a list. I'm Steve Buscemi with the lipstick. Yes, I have a list.
You have a list?
Yeah, it's fine. It's just building blocks like you. Over time, eventually, we win. I'm very patient. It's not bothering me. It's not changing my day.
Okay. That's fast. I hope I'm not on that list. I have to try to stay on your good side. Good Lord. You're not my grudge, just for the...
I feel good about that.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.